Good morning. All right. Yeah, let's talk about some fear, huh? So you get a plan going, a good one. You have a conviction. You know, something in your spirit rises up and said, you should say something to help, encourage. You should step out and do that. You should help that guy. You should show up. You should humble yourself, whatever it is. And then that little voice creeps in. Just a sec. Wait. What's on the line here? What's on the line here? Stop and think about this before you just plow in there. What's on the line here? It's a built-in program that everybody has. You don't have to download that. It's just in there. It's in everybody. And here's the thing. Fear gets a really bad rap most of the time, but the truth is God put fear in you as an emotion for a purpose. There's actually a reason that fear exists. For me, it's so that I don't touch a hot stove twice. I did it once. I don't have to do it again. I remember that moment for the rest of my life. Fear is important. It's meant to keep you from loss. It's meant to keep you from unnecessary pain, right? It's useful. It affects everything. And it's part of every decision that you make. Every relationship move, every financial move that you might make. Sure. It's part of friendships, career moves, everything that you have to decide. And occasionally, I know, you meet somebody that prides themselves on being afraid of nothing. Did you ever have a friend like that growing up? Somebody's just afraid of nothing, you know. Usually they had a lot of scars on their knees and up and down their legs, you know, a lot of burn marks on the hands, you know. If they thought they might be afraid of something, they'd just be like, I'm just going to do it. I'm just going to do it. It's almost like the opposite, right? Now, here's the thing. You don't want to get too attached to someone like that because here's one thing, they're not going to last too long. And number two, they're going to explode your life along with theirs. Isn't that right? You know, there's a proverb that says this: whoever walks with the wise will become wise, but the companion of fools suffers harm. If you're around someone and attached to someone who isn't too careful with their own life, don't expect them to be very careful with yours either. If they go around crashing cars, it's not going to be too long before your car gets crashed into. It's just how it works. Most of us, though, try to do well, try to learn, try to get street smart, and not go through unnecessary pain and loss. It's just a human thing. It's a right thing. But here's the problem. Sometimes it seems like Jesus would tell us to do things that go completely against wisdom, completely against what fear says. Fear says, you know, if you step out there and do that, you're going to get into trouble. If you go to a place like that, you might get killed. Right? And some of these fears, actually, they're not illegitimate fears. There's a reason that you might expect something bad to happen, because when people do those things, bad things sometimes happen. When you run your finances like that, oftentimes it comes crashing and, you know, the house of dominoes comes apart. You know, there are reasons for fear. And a lot of times, Christians find them wrestling because it seems like Jesus is telling them to do something, but the something does not look smart by all the standards that you've, put together over the years, your street smartness and all that good stuff. Why would he tell me to do that? That looks dangerous. I could get rejected. I could be in pain. I could be lonely. I could lose influence. I could lose opportunities. I could lower my lifestyle. I could get injured. I could lose my pride. I could be sad for a while. I could die. I could lose everything that's valuable to me, or a lot of it. And I don't know if I'll ever get that back. So, that's something to think about. It's the reason many people hold way off on making any commitment to Jesus. It's not necessarily because they think, I'm just not sure if that's what's really true, although that's a thing, I get that. But so many more people hold off because they say to themselves, if that's really true, it looks like following Jesus is just like a whole lot of loss and a whole lot of risk, and I don't know about that. But Jesus handled this issue. And I don't know if you know this or not. It's such a big issue, he handles it in installments. Some of you are like, I don't, why would he do that? Well, I'm telling you what, it's such a deep-rooted thing. It's so difficult and tricky. There are just some things in life for God to teach us and for us to get it. It has to go in like little doses for a while, right? He opens up the idea and makes a statement, and then you're like, oh, wait, what? Maybe? I'll weigh that out. And he comes back and revisits it again and revisits it again. And this is something like that. So this is one of the most famous passages in the New Testament of Jesus doing things. It says, this is Jesus after doing some ministry. His public ministry is up and running. He's out there doing amazing things, saying offensive things, saying good things. And it says in Matthew, he got into the boat. They had a boat, fishing boat, and his disciples followed him. Without warning, a furious storm came up on the lake so that the waves swept over the boat. That's a serious storm. I mean, that's not like, ooh, up and down. I mean, that's scary. That'll make you, but waves just over the top, right? And so these fishermen, some of them experienced fishermen who'd been out there their entire lives, freak out. It says the waves swept over the boat, but Jesus was sleeping. Jesus is sleeping. I don't know how you sleep through water coming down over your, but whatever. And I actually kind of think maybe he wasn't really sleeping. I think he was just kind of like, you know. But Jesus was sleeping. The disciples went and woke him, saying, Lord, save us, we're going to drown. Like, no more sleep time, man. Like, if you're going to do something, this is the moment, because it's obvious we're going down. And this is his reply. You of little faith, why are you so afraid? Why are you so afraid? You little faith are you. Why? Why? Just step back for a second. I can answer that question for them. I totally can. You can too. Here's the thing. When you are going to drown, you get afraid. Like, that is a normal, perfectly acceptable response to drowning. Like, I don't know about you, but my mind, when I look at drowning, I'm about to drown, my mind has a little computer that goes, beep, 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 wait a minute, let's go do something else. Let's phone a friend. Let's find something else to do with our time right now. We don't need to do this. This is dumb. Let's do something else. Like, yeah, I don't want that. I don't want to drown. But they don't even have the chance to respond, because he just gets up. He gets up and rebuked the winds and the waves, and it was just completely calm. Everything's fine. And the men were amazed and asked, what kind of man is this? Even the winds and the waves obey him. That's a really good question. What kind of man is this? What kind of guy is this? And then that's just kind of the end of the thing. And you're like, wait, what? What was the point of that? This is just showing off. Like, what? Why did he, he just gets up, oh, no big deal. What's your problem? And then just, yeah, we're going to go on to make it on over to the other side, right? Like, it's like, can Jesus not relate to people who are afraid of drowning in water? Like, what does this mean? This is the most unbelievable thing anybody's ever seen, right? Like, oh, hey, quiet. Oh, it's done. All right. So then, listen, this isn't the end of the lesson. That's the problem. It's not the end. There's more. There's a lot more. And so Jesus goes on with ministry and brings these guys. They don't go back in the boat. They're on land doing their thing all over around the area of the Sea of Galilee, and in these little fishing villages and towns on foot. And so sick people are getting instantly fine. Boom, right? Dead person, not dead anymore. That's pretty cool, right? Offends religious ruling classes all over the place, left and right. Their contemporary cousin, John, Jesus' John, okay? He's in ministry too. He's doing things, not the same level of things that Jesus is doing. And then John gets into trouble because he speaks up against the king and says, hey, look, the thing you're doing is actually pretty evil. You're stealing somebody that doesn't belong to you. You can't do that. And so John gets executed. And there is a moment where Jesus pauses just to grieve about that, because he and John were cousins and close, and Jesus respected John. But they can't get away from people. There are thousands of people finding them somehow, just always finding them. Word gets out. And so they get up in the middle of nowhere, and his disciples come to Jesus. I'm not quoting this one today. I'm just telling you. They look around. There are like thousands and thousands and thousands of people out in the middle of nowhere, and they say, Jesus, you got to send these people out of here. You got to tell them to go home, or else they won't go home. They don't seem to know what's good for them. They got to go. And Jesus is like, why? Well, they don't have any food. What are they going to eat, right? And Jesus is like, nah, you feed them. What? No, you feed them. You feed them. Why send them away? You feed them. And so they're like, well, here's what we got. We got 5 loaves of bread and 2 fish. That's what we've got. That'll do. That'll do. Put them in the baskets, pass them around. And of course, you know that there is somehow enough. Like you got 5 loaves plus 2, you got 7 units of something, and somehow that's enough to feed well over 5,000 people on a hillside. I guess math doesn't mean anything. What? And then this is what we're told. We're told immediately, right after that miracle, immediately, Jesus made the disciples to get into the boat and go on ahead of him to the other side while he dismissed the crowd. He had to make them get in the boat this time. Get in the boat. Get in the boat, guys. Well, I don't know about this. Last time we were in the boat with you. You're like, get in the boat. Get in the boat. After he dismissed them, he went up on a mountainside by himself to pray. When evening came, he was there alone. But the boat was already a considerable distance from land, stalled by the waves because the wind was against it. So they're out there, you're trying to get to the other side. They can't get anywhere. And Jesus is taking his time, doing what he needs to do. And there they are, conveniently out in the middle. So he just walks out there. Walks out there. Did you catch that part? He walks out there. It says, during the 4th watch of the night, Jesus went out to them walking on the lake. When they saw him walking, they were what? Elated. No, they're terrified. They're terrified. Look, if it was you or me trying to invent a story that you could get people to believe and kind of get behind and, rally them around whatever you wanted to get done or whatever, this is not the story that you would tell. You would tell a more, self-serving story. We saw Jesus and we were like, oh, there he is. You're like, no, we screamed like little girls. That's what we did. It's a ghost, they said, and they cried out in fear like little girls. No, I'm just saying. But Jesus immediately said to them, take courage, it's I, don't be afraid. It's me. Now, give Peter the credit he deserves. He actually says something. He says, Lord, if it's you, Peter replied, tell me to come to you on the water. Come. I didn't expect that, but that's what he says. Come on. I'm thinking, Peter, stay in the boat, you fool. What are you doing? This is not something that you do when there are waves. It's a storm. It's an open boat. You're in the middle. It's deep. You do not get out of the boat. That's why we have boats. Peter's just not making any sense. If it's you, you tell me to go out there. So he does. He got down out of the boat, walked on the water. It came toward Jesus, but when he saw the wind, he was afraid, and beginning to sink, cried out, Lord, save me. And immediately Jesus reached out his hand and caught him. You of little faith, he said. You little faither. You of little faith, he said, why did you doubt? I can answer that question too. Lord, because you told me to do something utterly ridiculous. And in the middle of doing it, that fear thing caught up, that reflex like, Peter, you're doing something utterly ridiculous. You don't get out of the boat. This is how people drown. This is like, come on, man, it's in there. My mama told me you don't get out of the boat in a storm, no matter what, right? And so he's in the middle of it, and he gets distracted from Jesus and the awesomeness and what is going on, and he just looks at the plain old facts. Just for a little bit. And then, of course, his faith diminishes, right? It decreases. And suddenly he doesn't really have the faith anymore to do the thing that Jesus told him to go do. And isn't that what happens, right? You start looking around at circumstances. Oh, Jesus had me doing this, and you get started, and you're into it, and like, wait a minute, this could go badly. Of course, you start to slow down, right? You start to lose the faith for it as you get distracted. It says, when they climbed into the boat, the wind died down. Then those who were in the boat worshipped him, saying, truly, you are the Son of God. See, they answered the question. When they had the first go around, it was, what kind of a guy is this? And then the light bulb has come on finally. Oh. Yeah, there's no way around it. You're the guy. You're the guy. Did you see this? This is the guy. Oh, nobody saw it. We saw. I'm telling you, this is the guy. This is the guy. You're like, is that a lesson? Like, what am I supposed to draw from that? Actually, there is, and it's pretty simple, but it's hard to like cut through all the thick of your own emotions and twisted up stuff inside, right? But here's the lesson. It's that it really matters who you're with. It really matters who asked you to come and do the thing. I'm telling you, if you're just deciding to go out in the middle of a storm in an open fishing boat in Galilee, which is a very dangerous little sea once a storm hits, by the way, very dangerous place. Lots of people have died there, okay? I'm going to advise you not to do that. If that's just something you've come up with on your own, I'm going to go do this thing. I'm going to be fearless. Yeah, you're going to be dead. That's what's going to happen. Like, what are you thinking? But there's something very important. When Jesus steps in and says, I want you to come and do this thing that's important with me. We're going to go over on this trip and we're going to tell people about me. We're going to help people out in this part of the world and share these things. Or you're going to start these important conversations with people that you care about at work. You're going to do these things. You're going to practice generosity consistently and be a generous person. You're going to A, B, C, D, anything that Jesus taught and commanded. Well, you don't need to fear the usual stuff. That's what he's saying. You don't need to be afraid of the usual stuff. I trump the usual stuff. You're like, well, wait, what about the law of physics? I made the laws of physics. I can just bend them whenever I want. What about like math, right? Like if I give on the regular basis, like how am I going to have 5 plus 2 equals 5,000? It's whatever I want it to be, man. The regular laws of biology no longer apply. If I say they're irrelevant today, they're irrelevant because I'm God, right? That guy is dead, 4 days in the tomb. His name's Lazarus. Like, what's going on with him? Well, he's dead. You know what Jesus' response is? Well, he's just sleeping. I'm going to go wake him up. Are you? You should be totally afraid of the usual things. You should totally use wisdom. You should totally seek to protect yourself and avoid unnecessary pain and plan for the future and all that stuff. Unless Jesus is telling you this is an important thing, you need to do it. Well, then it's different. Then it's different. Yeah, what about all that? Yeah, don't worry about that. Don't worry about that. We could die. Yeah, could you? I'm not too worried. I'm not too worried. One of the most important moments in the New Testament, in the gospel, and I'm not putting all the scriptures up today. I apologize if that's, rough for you, but when Jesus goes and raises this friend of his, Lazarus, from the dead, they went through this whole conversation. Well, we're going to go wake him up. He's sleeping. And then they're like, he's asleep. And of course, there's a question that comes up. Wait a minute. We're not going back there. Because remember when we were there, all those Pharisees tried to stone you to death? Remember that? Why would we go there? Isn't there somewhere else we could go? If he's sleeping, you know what? He'll just wake up, probably. That's what they said to him. If he's sleeping, he'll wake up. Jesus said, well, actually, he's dead. It was a euphemism. He's dead. But we're going to go. So that you see something important that you need to see. It's actually going to be a really good thing. God's going to get glory from this. And there's one of the disciples who never gets quoted, hardly ever. His name is Thomas. I don't know, Vinny, did you catch this one in there? Do you remember this? Have you read your Bible? Okay. No, I'm just kidding. Vinny's read his Bible. I know that. But in the end of this little passage in John where Jesus is going to go to Lazarus, Thomas speaks up and says, well, let's all go so we can die with him. He's like, I don't even know why we're going. This is the dumbest thing I think. Why would we go? I guess he's dead. I guess we'll all just go die. We're like, what? That's natural. That's natural. Everybody contends with that. Jesus is telling me to do something. It's just nonsensical. Yeah, but if Jesus is with you, what does it matter? That first lesson in the boat, look, I'm with you. What's the worst that could happen? I'm here. What's the worst? And you and I can all answer that question. What's the worst that could happen? I could lose everything. What do you mean by everything? I could lose everything important to my life. What do you really mean by that? I could lose my life. I could lose my life. And Jesus sends a message in those moments when he steps up and says, roll that tomb door open. Roll that stone out of the way. Lazarus, get out of there. Come out. What's the worst thing that could happen? Well, I can handle that too. I can handle that too. What's the worst thing that could happen if I do the right thing? What's the worst thing that could happen? I could make it up to you. As long as you're with me, you're safe. As long as you're with me, you could lose everything that's important to you, and you'll be fine because you're going to be getting all it back and more. You don't need to be afraid. You don't need to be afraid. You could be afraid about doing dumb things. You can be, plenty afraid about doing things you shouldn't be doing, but don't be afraid when it comes to Jesus calling you out to do something. Do something about your faith. Go get in the boat. Okay, I'll get in the boat. Might drown. Yeah, but will I? And even if I do. See, everybody has these things they face, these moments, the wrestling matches, I call them. You get in there, I got to do I got to do this, I got to do that. But, what could happen? What could I lose? Wait. The lesson is you don't have to be afraid. You don't have to be afraid. Go for it. Because it matters who you're with, and if I told you, I'm with you. Even if you're just kind of like, I think Jesus, he didn't tell me from the clouds, but this is definitely like everything I understand that Jesus says leads up to me doing something like this. And you step out there in faith and do it, I'm telling you, he's behind you. He's behind you. He read the heart. He saw it. He knew it before you did it. You might make a little mistake. Well, maybe that isn't exactly what Jesus said. You're fine. You're fine. You're fine. That's Jesus' message. And I know that's hard to pick up in 29 and a half minutes and go home. And you're like, oh, I'm not afraid of anything I shouldn't be afraid of anymore. Oh, that's impressive. Let's hang out sometime. But here's something that you can do right away. You can pray real prayers in your personal prayer life that sounds something like this. God, remind me of the thing that I should be doing. Remind me of the thing that I've been putting off. I need to bring back up and get into. Remind me of that conversation. Remind me, don't let me forget. And when it comes time to pull the trigger and put my foot forward, God, put something in me. Put something in there I do not possess. Make me able. Take this little tiny little pathetic seed of faith that I have to even just come close to doing what I ought to do in this moment and just give me the rest. Push me over the edge. Come up behind me and just slap me on the back and I'll just follow. Look, whatever you got to do, Lord, but make it happen. Make me able. You can start praying prayers like that. You can start that today. So I'm going to pray with you this morning along those lines. And you're going to join me, or you're going to do the thing where you bow your head and just kind of wait for it to be over. You could pick either today. I mean, it's a free place, right? I'll never know. But I'm going to ask you pray with me and pray along the lines of what you might have prayed before you even started. About that fear. Lord, that thing that drives me, that shouldn't, God, erase it with me. Do what you need to do in me. Make me more fearful of disobeying you than of whatever's to come. Make me unafraid of the threats of people, of the threats that anxiety brings up. Make me more fearful of living with no peace. Make me fearful of the right person. God, help me over the edge. Help me in this one area that seems to just haunt me. God, help me be afraid no more. Help me to rise up above and have a better vision of what's real from up high. God, give me your perspective about this. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen. Amen. That is all for this morning. And so just one